I think there are several reasons that the Tunbridge Fair is special. We try to retain that old-time country fair flavor that I think a lot of large urban fairs have lost. We're still in a small town, and it really lends itself, I think, the atmosphere to an old-time fair.
At one time, it was reported that Vermont had more cattle than people, and dairy farming is still one of the state's major industries. Products like Ben & Jerry's ice cream and Cabot cheese have a national reputation. But beyond the famous dairy air of the state, what really goes on in the small family farms? The Wallace farm in Waterbury is typical of the small dairy. Keith Wallace and his daughter Rosina run the place together.
Well, I'm 82, and I was born here on the farm. My mother said that as soon as I was able to creep, I used to start for the barn frequently, so I guess I've been farming almost all the 82 years. There's a degree of independence and just love of the land and love of the animals and that sort of thing. The old song, America, I love thy rocks and rills, thy woods and templed hills. Well, sometimes you feel more like cursing the rocks than you do loving them. They say the only unchanging thing in agriculture is change itself, and that's certainly true of the operation here. Also, there's been quite a change in the public acceptance of dairy products. In the old days, why, the butterfat was the important ingredient, and now with this mania towards skim milk and low-fat milk, the butterfat in milk seems to be somewhat of a handicap. But we still stayed with our Jersey cows, which produce not only high butterfat but high total solids, high protein, which is brings a premium price now.
I think they're rather pretty animals, and I guess I'm biased toward the Jerseys because we've always had Jerseys. One of the big advantages, as far as I'm concerned, is that they don't weigh as much as the Holsteins and they're not as big. When you've got one of those critters standing on your foot, it's nice that they're not any bigger than they are.
They say one advantage of farming is you don't have to go to work. You're surrounded by it the moment you get up. And that's certainly true. I get up and, well, in the cool weather, I stoke up the fire and head for the barn. And this time of year, I go out and call the cows. If they don't come in of their own accord, Rosina and her dog have to go out and chase them in.
See, dog will tell you. No bites, Yoshibad, no bites. Okay, now listen, Miss Eva, you can take the Yoshibad, wait right there.
We get them into the barn, we draw the grain, we start the milking machines, and start milking the cows. Well, we use the surge milkers, which hang on a surcingle, which goes around the cow's body. Then we take 3 or 4 strips from each teat, and we usually strip it into a pail and feed it to the cats. And then we hang the milking machines, give them their grain to eat while they're milking, and we check them after they're milked.
She's our #1 milker right now.
The milk is dumped from the machine into a pail and carried to the milk tank, which is in the milk house, strained through a strainer.
It's hard to not having the time to go places and do things and to be involved in outside activities because you have to be home working. The other part of farming that I really don't like is pronouncing death sentence on the critters. Whether or not they live or die depends on how much they're going to contribute to the operation, and we have to make decisions in terms of which baby calves, heifer calves we're going to raise and which ones we're going to sell. Of course, all the bulls go to market anyway, and it's really hard for me to load a critter on the truck. See you again soon. Okay. When I first started farming, the truck would leave and I'd go back in the barn and cry, and I've gotten beyond that, but it's still not very easy for me to do that.
There are only 4 dairy farms left in Waterbury. This is something like a decline of over 100 in the period from, say, 3940 to 1990. That's a period of 50 years. Changing from a agricultural related enterprise to people who come here to visit and people who live here and work somewhere else. It certainly is a tremendous change. Now, the fact that we've changed some with respect to the nature of the people who are earning a livelihood, in my opinion, prejudiced opinion, is we've moved away from that independence, self-reliance characteristic.
This is my grandfather and my grandmother's pictures. They had 7 children, all of whom were born here on the farm. And this, of course, is my dad. My dad and mother's wedding picture, and the 3 of us kids. That makes 5 generations on the farm, and I would like very much to see it continue to be a family farm.